Welcome back to Great Day. Our next segment is a story about curiosity, connection, and the power of discovering where you come from. Our next guest never met her paternal grandfather. Years later, Avery Renfro set out to discover who he was and the legacy he left behind. Turns out her grandfather, Leon Renfro, was a Houston artist, educator, and Texas Southern University professor. His career took him from the classroom to the space program and beyond. And as Avery began digging into his life, she found a story worth bringing back into the light, including an incredible connection between her grandfather and another artist who just happened to be her great uncle. Today, she's helping preserve that history and making sure the next generation knows the name Leon Renfro in her exhibition, Brown Renfro, the Professor, the Student, the Curator. She's joined by her father, Leon Renfro, who carries his own memories of the man behind the legacy. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, we were talking a little bit earlier about knowing more about those people who we call our loved ones.
Yes.
And so this is what you were able to do. Leon's early life, born in Houston in 1939.
Yes, so my grandfather, Professor Leon Renfro, was born in Camden, and he grew up on the north side of Houston, Texas. There he went to Wheatley High School, and then after graduation from Wheatley High School, he went to Texas Southern University, where he studied art. After his art degree, he then went to NASA, where he became an illustrator.
And this is interesting, when you say born in 1939, if you don't understand your history, a lot of people would not understand that those are the opportunities that he was able to seize and take advantage of because of his talent and determination, and probably in his family, the understanding that you will get an education.
Yes, indeed. So education definitely comes first. So then after that, he spent time as an illustrator at NASA, and where he focused primarily on design. And then, my grandfather has always had a love for Texas Southern University, so one of his main focuses was to come back to teach. And so for that, he went to Sam Houston State, where he obtained his master's in art of design, and then he became Professor Renfro.
All right, and a lot of his artwork was around, and people had no idea what the story was attached to it. And you and I were talking before the show, and your dad, that how many times that you may go to an antique store or thrift store, and you see all these art pieces that were not the mass-produced things that we have today, and you wonder who first did that, when did they do that, why did they do that, whose home did it sit in?
For sure. So so my grandfather's paintings were actually laid dormant for 30 years, either in storage or at family members' homes. And so actually, once I graduated from Virginia Commonwealth University with my degree in African American Studies, I wanted to learn more about my legacy of my family and who I came from. So there I began doing my research, and here we are today.
And you found out that like a lot of the art pieces had been in exhibitions already and around the world, actually.
Yes, so we have a few pieces today that have been featured around the world. We have Egyptian bulls here that has been featured at several fine art museums, such as Dallas Museum of Fine Arts, Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. And so,
all right. He passed away in 1993.
Yes. You
knew him.
Yes.
Tell me what your memories were.
My father was very stern and very serious. He was never late for work, never missed a day of work. That was the work ethic that was installed by my grandfather and his mother.
And you have some memories that I can picture them right now. It sounds like a beginning of a Spike Lee movie. He loved jazz, and he would listen to jazz.
He loved
KTSU.
jazz. He loved blues. Every day when he came home from work, his way to decompress was to sit in his KHUT Channel 8 director's chair. Turn on KTSU and listen to jazz and blues and just watch me and the other neighborhood kids play and just keep a watchful eye of us and make sure that we were all right, and then just go home and he'd just be dad.
And through your research, you found because he was that professor, how he had mentored other people like Bruce Brown.
So through my research, I learned so much from his students and former colleagues, but I also found his master's thesis. And that was the foundation of really the research of the work that I have completed today. So through that, it gave me titles of exhibitions, as well as how he taught in design at Texas Southern University, and he actually taught my maternal uncle, Bruce Brown.
Okay, now this is where I need the flow chart. Okay, because your two families were connected through art and education, because someone was like, wait, what's your name again? That's a familiar name, right?
So when my parents got married, my mom, Lakeisha Brown Renfro, introduced my dad, Leon Renfro, to her uncle Bruce Brown, and he said, "Hey, I know that last name Renfro." He said, "I had an art design professor, and he was named Leon Renfro," and my dad was like, "That was my father." And so from there, it was two families coming together and establishing a legacy. So.
Yeah, and that, speaking of that legacy, you're surprised by how little information was offered publicly. And what I love what you did is that sometimes people stop right there and say, "Gosh, there's just not much out there about him," and so you said, "Okay. This is my calling. Then I'm going to do something about it." The Brown Renfro exhibition. Take us through the exhibition.
So the Brown Renfro exhibition tells the story between the professor, the student, and the curator. And so it connects those two last names and that legacy, bringing their artwork to the digital age. As you mentioned, I didn't find much about my grandfather or Bruce Brown through media as far as websites or journals. And so I took that as initiative to find different things. So when I found that master's, I was able to connect different exhibitions. So I did a lot of emailing, a lot of calling, and from there I got answers as far as from different archives and continued the story.
Yeah, the NASA-related archival discoveries.
Yes, so the NASA archives, I actually got invited to go into the archives and learn a little bit more about my grandfather and his work there during his time being an illustrator.
Yeah, and once again, it kind of goes against the grain of what some things that we may have been taught. You know, we heard about, you know, hidden figures and all those types of things, but he was involved in NASA as well. The power of legacy. You may not know your ancestors' stories, but you can choose to discover them. I love that you say that. And you know, I was having this conversation with a friend the other day. I said, "Have you ever done any of your ancestry stuff?" She goes, "No, I don't know if I want to know." And I said, "You know what's so cool about it is that you look at the good, bad, and the ugly, but you figure out where you came from." And it for me, it was an immense sense of pride, because again, what you may have been taught in history, you realize that it's much broader than that. Your loved ones, that they had lives, they have dreams, they had hopes, and so the importance of people finding their legacy in their family. I'm going to start with you, because you knew your dad, but she never got a chance to really meet him, and how powerful it is to connect the dots between him and her.
No, it's just a serendipitous story to see how my daughter has brought this story to light, and as a parent and along with my wife and watching our child be able to do this and to tell this very awe-inspiring story is a sight to see. How she has made the connection from my father, her grandfather, her great uncle, and how my dad taught her uncle, and
there's that flowchart thing I was talking about.
The combination of these families together that just came up perfectly to make this story come true.
Yeah, and the tenacity is right there in the DNA. And what you would say to young people who are so busy focusing on moving forward, they don't take the time to look back to see how they got there?
I would say this: you have to know where you come from. You have to know your family's name, your family's history, because when they're no longer there, it's up to you to continue their story. So I always like to say with Brown Renfro, the exhibition, our motto is, we don't hang the art, we carry it on. So as these beautiful pieces are here today, I don't want them to just hang in homes and studios. I want them to understand the history behind them, to carry on the legacy and continue to move it forward.
Yeah, I love that history piece. We were in Dunkeld, Scotland several years ago, and Dunkeld was the town founded by Duncan. And my son goes, "So Grandpa founded this town?" And we're like, a little more complicated than that, son, but we'll talk about that some other time. Yeah, I wish Grandpa founded that town. But anyway, thank you so much for sharing your story, because it's fun to see what you've discovered, but you're also challenging others to discover their own legacy, their own family's legacy as well.
Yes,
thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
All right, Brown Renfro, the professor, the student, the curator. Exhibition runs August 29th through October 25th at the Texas Southern University Museum. For more information, visit greatdayhouston.com and we will connect you.